guys, B-Man here. Welcome to today's video. Today, we've got an awesome one for you guys. What we have today is 3 builds in one for Lepic. Yes, I've got you guys my ultimate Lepic. Well, it's not ultimate Lepic. This is base Lepic, but it's an ultimate build. Because this build is just ultimate, right guys? What you can do with this build is, as you see in the gameplay right here, you can go through with the big balls and you can just delete bosses. Like you're seeing right here, we go along and we deleted the Frostwalker, right? Now, that build there is really reliant late game on you getting in with other Lepics that can do that. So, that later on in the game, that's not actually the best build to run. There's actually other builds that you can run with Lepic, like this gun build that I've got turned to. So, in this video, I show you guys, I've got a gun build for Lepic, I have an infinite super weapon build for Lepic, and we have this big blast build for Lepic, all from the one Descendant. So what that means is I'm not over catalyzing towards one build, so I can't go in and do other builds. What this build is an all-round build. So yes, I've got 3 catalysts on Lepic, and those are for the big fireball blasting build to make it so that you can 10-second kill the Dead Bride, right? So this build can 10-second kill Dead Bride, and on top of that, when you don't feel like doing that, you can just swap over to your other module class setup, and then you can suddenly have a super buffed weapon and go out tanky as and destroy things with weapons, guys. And then when you want to go and do missions, you can just swap to your other module setup and go out there and have infinite super weapon. So with that said, let's get in, and there's a lot to explain on this, how to use this, how it works, and all sorts. So I've got some gameplay first, and then we'll get into the builds. But as you see right here, we're now on the Lepic gun build. Now, what this is so good for is the base buff that it does to your weapons. Now, the second ability of Lepic, on this build, we have a Transcendant mod, which makes that no longer buff our fireball skill power by 20%. Instead, it actually buffs our weapons firearm attack by 52%. Yes, we get a 52% buff to our base damage, and everything else scales off that. So this is potentially the most powerful gun Descendant in the game, because all the fire damage that gets added onto your shot gets bigger because of that buff. All the fire ticks are ticking for more because it's the base damage is more, your criticals is more, every single shot is more, and everything, guys. This just buffs everything. And on top of that, if you're a Descendant that plays in public matches with other Descendants, and you get into a lobby with a Luna or a Enzo, something that's buffing your crit rate, guess what? You're suddenly hitting way harder crits than any other Descendant, because we have the crit rate buff on top of our base firearm attack being 52% stronger than any other Descendant can have. We're suddenly the most highest DPS Descendant for guns in the game, guys. So on top of that, we're also super tanky, because Lepic has this passive ability where he goes immune, and because we're not focused on skill power, we can focus on other things. So we're focusing on skill duration, cooldowns, and health. What that means is Lepic's passive, instead of only being a 5-second immunity, we go immune to all damage for 10 seconds almost. Yes. So when it comes to things like Frostwalker going immune, you have to run around them to kill all those things. No problem with this build. You just walk around and destroy them. You activate your ability so you're doing extra damage with your gun, and you just run around him and kill him. He can't kill you because you're just so tanky, and if he gets your health down and gets you to that point, you turn into immune. So even your health doesn't matter with Lepic. Now, that's actually a big thing in play for Lepic's gun build, because people I've seen in my past videos have said, oh, this is clickbait because you only got 2k health, he's just going to die. Well, sorry guys, you're so wrong, it's not funny. With Lepic, with how he works, is even 2k health is enough to be able to destroy the Dead Bride because of that invincibility state. While he goes invincible, it doesn't matter if he's got no health. He's still going to tank more damage and survive longer than Ajax with 50k health while he's invincible. So the invincibility state literally makes it so that you can just destroy bosses with that low health, for the low health build, okay guys? But that also makes this build super powerful. So you can just go around, and as you see here, if the Frostwalker goes into invincibility, we just pull him straight out of it. We don't have any problems. I can solo kill this Frostwalker with this build every time without fail with 1 life. I don't even get killed. Now, other side of this build is ammo. That's the biggest problem that you're going to run into. So to solve that, I run a second weapon that has all the ammo modules. So I'm running a Tamer as my second weapon that has the same ammo type, general rounds. And on my Tamer, I have max general rounds, and I have the module that makes my Tamer pick up general rounds when I run over other ammo. So whenever I need ammo, I swap to my Tamer, I pick up the ammo, and then I have heaps of ammo for my gun, and I swap back and I do massive damage output. Now, with that gun, how you use that one is when you activate your ability, it will actually cancel your reload. So how you use that whole setup is you shoot your gun, and then you activate your B ability, you fire out your gun. And then when you run time to reload, you reload, and then wait till your animation puts the clip into your gun, and then you press your ability, it cancels the reload, and now you're ready to fire with buffed bullets. You empty your clip, then you do that same thing again. You reload, cancel the reload by buffing it, and then you just keep going, guys. It's simple, it works really well. And also, guys, now we've got this build right here. This is the infinite super weapon build, and as you see, it's really good for infinite ammo and stuff like that. Now, it's really good for mob clearing and missions and stuff like that. Granted, Bunny's better for missions. If you got Bunny, just use Bunny. But this can do missions and mob clearing. Now, with this build here, as you'll see, the cannon is not that grunty against the bigger elites, but how you kill bigger elites with this thing is you use the burn damage. So for bigger elites in that, you'll hit them once and you'll let the burn tick away, and then you'll hit them again and then you'll let the burn tick away. And doing that, you'll be able to even kill the end bosses of dungeons and stuff like that with this super weapon quite easily. It's not a problem. But you do need to rely on that burn tick damage to be able to kill the bigger elites at the end of the dungeons. Okay, guys, so with that said, you get this one is pretty cool. It's a unique, different way of doing things. You can also do dungeons with the gun build, but this is just another way to be able to go around and enjoy Lepic with infinite super weapon. So this is this one, and with that, that's the 3 different builds. Let's get into the builds and more about the details of the builds and everything that you need to know, guys.
I think it's the Dead Bride Hard that I have to destroy. Yeah. Hopefully we get Enduring Legacy from this. Now, if we can hit crits, we can get a good possibly 16 seconds or something. 10 seconds if we hit crits really well. That's really reliant on hitting all crits when she's in her immobilized state. Then you hit really hard. We'll see. Yep. This is everything. See. Oops, missed. I'm nowhere near close enough to her either. I'm gonna come and just flunk this big time. I don't know why I didn't get up underneath her. Like, that's what you do. That's why you don't. Watch this. See that, guys? That's what you don't do with this build. You do not do that. I wasn't thinking. That's how you don't use this build. And people doing that is why that build will not be effective for you. Now we'll show you how you do use this build. I was too used to standing where you stand and how you approach it for the gun build. But I forgot we're not running the gun build. So let's go and show you how you do this build for, or how you approach her for that build. What you need to aim at is when in that loading screen we were just at, it shows where her weak points are, and those are on just under her knees. She's got those shin points. Those are weak to burst damage. You want to focus on those and target those even when she's in the immobilized state, because you want the damage from your big ball does burst damage, and I believe that if you hit those spots you're going to be doing bigger burst damage because it's weak to burst to those spots. Activate it. Get right up underneath her and shoot those spots on her legs. See how you want to get right up underneath her, and then hopefully you can hit it to get immobilized. And then once you immobilize her, this is how you get way more damage into her. And you're almost 10-second her. If she didn't go into immunity just then, we would have had her like maybe a 16-second kill. But she went into immunity, so it's going to be a little bit longer. But that's how you use this. You don't stand back like you've seen us before. You just get straight in and you just destroy her. Okay? That's how you use that build. Do not do it how I done it the first time. Do it like that, okay? That's what you're aiming for, and that's why you're going for the effective kills with this build, okay? So make sure that when you're doing it, you're getting up under her feet when you're initiating everything, and so you can get enough shots into her legs as she's backing off to immobilize her. And then while she's immobilizing, that's when you're hitting her, doing the really big damage, okay? So Dead Bride, 10-second kills, and 16 under 20-second kills and stuff like that.
Let's go over the builds. I have two different presets that I have for this Lepic, because depending on how you're running it, you run different components, okay, and reactors. So I have two different presets for the same build, but the modules stay the same. So we're going to start out with our bossing and our infinite super build, right? So for that, we're going to have this one here. Now, for this, your reactor does matter, so I'm going for fire, skill, power, boost ratio, and skill critical hit damage. Now, apparently, if you're going against Colossuses, try and go for damage against Colossus. But if you want a universal thing that's good for everywhere, don't go for damage against Colossus. Go for fire, skill, power, boost ratio, and skill critical hit damage, like you see here, because then you will also have good damage when you're not up against Colossus and you're using your infinite super for other things. So with that said, this is the reactor I've gone for, and I've gone for tech and fire skill on it, okay? Now that's just for this point in this one, and we have our reactor improved. Now, with that said, we have the Slayer set on this for that extra 26% skill power, and in here, very, very important, you need to make sure that this has max MP, and you're going for that gold 151. Now, this is a very big thing for this Lepic's Fireball build, because your mana with your duration needs to be at the right point to be able to get the maximum amount of fireballs out. So this build here, if you guys want an in-depth on this Lepic, how to do the fireballs and all of that stuff, I've actually got a more in-depth video already on this. I'll link in the description and in the pinned comment. So those people that want to know more about how that works and stuff, and or more about the stuff for this Fireball set, there's a more in-depth one. This video here is more the generic, hey, this is what you're going to use all combined together, not so much focusing solely on this one build. So if you guys want to know more details about the Fireball build, go and watch my other video, but you're going to see that this is using that build, but I'm also able to incorporate from that build and turn it into these other builds. So I'm not going to cover over the Fireball build too much, because you guys have already got a full video covering it completely, but from that build is the build that we based this off, and then we're using this build to create the other builds from, okay? So with that in mind, I have catalyzed Lepic. I have some catalysts in Lepic for this Fireball build, okay? I have not added any catalyst to be able to create the other two builds. The other two builds are used with this setup in mind. So for this setup, obviously it's the Fireball build, so you're going for crits damage and stuff like that. This is the setup I'm using for the Fireball build. Now, we've got this here, which makes it, that's why I say you need to make sure that you want to focus on staggering the boss, because once you stagger them, you're doing way more damage to them, okay? So this is a big thing, and things like the Devourer, if you're trying to really fast kill the Devourer, this helps if you actually get up behind the Devourer and you get that first shot in before the Devourer turns around on you. You're going to do more damage because it's not targeting you, okay? So stuff like that helps a lot. So this is this build, and I have only catalyzed 1, 2, 3. Lepic comes with 2 catalyzed, okay? So this is the build for Lepic's gun build, and it works really well. We have got energy activator, but that's, you just should at this point of the game. Now, why this works so well is this here, right? when we talk about invincibility, damage, immunity. Now, this one, because of the duration, we've got it extended up to 7 seconds, right? That is really clutch. Now, this is the bossing build. I don't want to go too much onto this because I've already covered a lot. So let's move on from this build, and we'll quickly just show you guys how this works. So we'll go over the tamer. For that bossing build, the gun that you are holding when you activate your super matters. So whenever I activate my super for that, I swap to my tamer and I use my tamer because my tamer has these two modules on it, okay? These two modules here, maxed out, really affect your super weapon, okay, and the amount of shots you can get, because this makes it shoot a lot faster. So make sure you're holding your tamer out when you activate your super weapon if you want to get a lot more blast. Again, I've got a video that explains that a lot more in depth, so this is not going in depth on that. Watch my other video that explains how to get more fireballs, okay? So with that said, this is pretty much the fireball build, and we're going to move on to now go on to the infinite super weapon build, okay? Now, that is this right here, okay? So as you see, we had to incorporate these ones that we already had catalyzed, so I'm using those slots for this, and we've gone along and we've got this increased efficiency. Now, how this works is this no longer uses mana as it's active, and how it uses the mana is per shot uses up mana. So we want to get mana back for whenever we shoot it. So how it gets mana back is from the critical attacks, and also we're accompanying it from this. Whenever we defeat something, we have a chance to get mana back. So those with this here makes it so that whenever we shoot this, generally we're hitting at least some critical hits and we're getting our mana back, and it creates infinite amount of this, and we can just constantly use it like you've seen in the gameplay. Our mana keeps coming back and we do not run out of mana. And the way this is set up is this hits hard. It hits for like crits all the time for over 300,000, and the fire burns hard and everything. This setup really well, is really good, and it's healthy. We've got big chunk of health and everything. I like this setup. So this is the setup, that's the infinite mobbing one, and again, this one shares the same components because these components boost the skill power, and the infinite super is relying on skill power for its damage. Now, for that one, your weapon is irrelevant other than the tamer. You can, if you want, I wouldn't suggest having this on it, but some increased fire rate can help for it. If you activate your super weapon from holding that weapon, you'll get a little bit more fire rate, but it's not really important for that build. So with that said, the infinite super weapon, all that you need for this build is this right here. Is just these right here, and then you need these components. Now again, this reactor is good for this build for the infinite super. And in your components here, you want to make sure you get max MP on this one, and the others you're going for health, okay? Max health and shield on the other ones. Now, that is the complete build for that. Now, let's get into the real juicy build, that the whole reason I'm making this video, the new advanced setup. Now, this build over here, we have my new build, the gun build, and this build is using power unit change, okay? Now, keep in mind, guys, that with this build, this is very dependent on how well you have your weapon set up, okay? Because this is now buffing our weapon, right? So this is the setup you use for Lepic, and then whenever you use a weapon, your weapon is going to be 52% stronger for attack, right? And I've got this so that its cooldown matches its duration. So the second this runs out, you can reactivate it straight away. Yes, guys, so it's absolutely broken. How this works is you activate this with your B. It barely uses any mana. Don't worry about the cost. That's irrelevant here because mana's not a problem, okay? So how you use this is you will activate this. Then you will just start spray and hard out spray into the boss. Then when it comes to time to reload, you always reload your weapon before you activate this. And you use activating this to cancel your reload. So when you reload, you press reload and it'll pull the mag out of your clip, and then he'll put it back in the gun. But he'll put the mag back into your gun about halfway through your reload. At that stage, as soon as the mag goes into your gun, you can activate this ability. It cancels the rest of the reload animation. You're now ready to start firing with extra 52% damage. Yes. Now you accompany this with something like Luna or Enzo in your game that's adding crit chance. You're now hitting heavy crits with an extra 52% attack, fire rate attack. You're now the biggest hitting gun descendant in the match. Yes, guys, the potential on this is crazy. Now, when you're solo, well, every single thing you shoot and every little bit of damage has now got that extra 52%. The fire ticks are ticking for more. The percentage of fire damage added onto your gun is more fire damage added on. It's just everything. The crits are critting for higher and everything, guys. This is absolutely awesome. Now, on top of this, there's another bonus to this build. Because we're going so much in duration, and we've got so much duration, we also extend this right here. So we have a duration for our invincibility state for 8 seconds, which is more than enough to run around the Swamp Walker and destroy all of his invincibility things before he can kill you. So you can one life the Swamp Walker quite easily because of things like this. This is absolutely clutch. Now this right here is the reason this destroys bosses, because even if they get you to 0 health, it doesn't matter, because you've still got an extra 7 seconds to put out all your damage into the boss and they can't kill you. And then after that 7 seconds, you get half of your health back. You don't die, you get half of your health back. This passive is so clutch, it's not funny. And we've brought that cooldown right down to 265. And we've got the duration right up to nearly 9 seconds. So we go invincible for ages. It's absolutely awesome, and it's broken. Now with this build, the gun build, you do not use this. You do not use this. All that using those does is waste your MP, so you can't activate this more often. So for this build here, you do not use these. These are completely irrelevant. We're not building any skill power at all. We don't need skill power for anything. None of our damage comes from skill power. All our burn damage and everything comes off our guns damage and everything like that. So all we're building here is survivability, so we can put way heaps of health. So we have 330% health. We're super tanky with our health. We have heaps of cooldowns, so we can spam this ability out and always have our gun buffed all the time. And then we've got an extra slot here. Now this is why you see me taking on Frostwalker, the Swamp Walker and stuff like that so easily without dying. We have poison immunity if I'm taking on the Swamp Walker. If I'm taking on the Pyro, I can just swap that poison immunity out for the fire immunity one. So we come to here and we come to here, and I'll just swap it out, and we will put, if I'm going up against the Executioner, which is electric, I'll put this one into there for electric, right? And it's just, you just swap whatever one out you want for the immunity that you want. Burn immunity going up against the Pyro boss, and it just makes it so that those bosses, really, the burn doesn't hurt you and stuff like that. So the survivability just goes through the roof with this. Now this is only here for the extra cooldown, okay? And as you've seen right here, the only way that I would want to improve this build now is I would catalyze this slot right here, because all of my 3 things are using this slot here. So this is the final catalyzation that I'd probably do for this, and I would not catalyze any more slots after that. So I would catalyze this one slot here to be able to improve this a little bit further, and that would give me a little bit more, and I'd be able to fill in one more thing. But other than that, I would not catalyze. I wouldn't go along and catalyze every slot, because then I'm locked into one build and I can't swap through them. So that is the build for that stuff there, guys. This is the gun build for the Lepic and the modules. And then with that, to accompany the module side of the gun build, we've also got lots more different components. So we'll come across and we'll show you the component setup that we're running for that. So we've got the gun build, right? Then for the gun build, because it's not skill power, we've gone for HP modifier and minus skill cost, because all we want to do is be able to apply our buff more often without using up our thing. So skill cost, minus skill cost is good for that. And some health healing is good, because we don't need any skill power because we're not doing skill damage. So for this gun build, this is the best reactor for that, right? Now, and it doesn't even need to be a gold one, because again, skill power and all of that's irrelevant here. You're not using any of that. Now what we're going for is this one here, is this Annihilator auxiliary set. You don't need to have this, guys. This is just, so if you don't have this, no big deal, use whatever you have. But if you have this, you're going to get extra firepower damage. So this is the equivalent of the one that we have for our big fireball set, the Slayer set, but this is the equivalent for firearm attack, right? Instead of adding 26 26% firearm attack, 26% skill power, we're adding 26% firearm attack. So our gun does more damage once we're down on health. So that's what this thing here does, right? So now with this set here, we're doing even more firepower damage. So we get a 26% firepower damage buff plus a 52%. We're now at 78% firepower buff just from those two things alone, guys. Then you've got much more on top of that, okay? So now let's go into our gun. Now take into account here, this gun is not fully set up, okay? This is only got 1, 2 catalysts or 3. I think it's only got 2 catalysts on this gun, and it can go a lot further. So do not take the damage that you see from this based off this gun and say, oh, it's weaker than this other one that I've seen over here when they had a gun that was fully set up on their build, because that's not fair comparing, okay? So if you're going to compare the damage that we're doing on this gun, on this build, make sure you're comparing it with another gun that's set up exactly the same. So at this point in this gun, I can only build with what I have at the stage, okay? I don't have the gun fully leveled up. I don't have all of that stuff. I don't have the perfect rolls on the gun and everything. But this build complements whatever you do have. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the perfect gun, right? Whatever guns you do have, this build here is only going to complement it and make it gruntier than that gun when you run it on any other Descendant. And that is the point here, okay? So this is the build I'm running so far, and this is what's working really well for what I have so far, okay? Now, I run into ammo problems just with that gun. So what I had to do is I had to run a second gun that's the same ammo type, so that's general rounds, and I had to run a second gun, general rounds, and on this gun, I use max general rounds. I get more general rounds whenever I run over impact rounds or whatever it is, and then I have more general rounds. What this means is whenever I pick up ammo holding this gun out, my ammo reserves can go up to over 600, opposed to when I'm holding this one, I only have 400. So whenever I want some more ammo, I just swap to this gun, run over collect the ammo, and then I have a massive amount of ammo for this gun. So this here is my ammo reserve. Here is more set up for just for utility weapon, okay? So if I'm running my super weapon big blast of fireballs setup, I run the tamer, and I still use this exact same tamer, but I'm using it because it's got these two modules on it to boost the speed of what my fireballs can be shot and the number of fireballs I shot. Now, when I'm not using that build and I'm using my gun build, I still have this tamer equipped, but it's equipped for this reason, for the max general rounds, so that I can have more ammo for this gun when I'm gun building, okay guys? So those are the two weapon builds, and the tamer is with those things does help a lot, and it is a big part of this build. Now, with that said, that completes this whole setup, guys. As you see everything here, this is the complete Lepic setup right here. Now, one more thing I want to touch is on how to use this gun. So we're going to go in, and I'm going to get into that. We have this right here, right? And you're going to see that this is our firearm attack. We're at 27, but we can buff that crazy with all of these buffs. So once you see, as our health goes down, because of these right here, they're buffing our firearm attack. So as our health drops, we get lots more firearm attack, right? So you want to be... For this, we want to have a high health pool so that we can have a higher amount of health lost, right? Because that ratio goes for the amount of health lost, and as you see, as our health's dropping down, we're just getting gruntier and gruntier. Now, this firearm attack, obviously everything else buffs off that. So this here adds fire attack equal to a percentage of our firearm attack. So the higher our firearm attack, the higher the percentage, the amount of fire attacks getting added onto our attack and everything. So we have that much firearm attack, right? I just accidentally pressed the wrong button. So we have this much fire attack, right? 30,000. Now we activate our B ability, and now we have 37,000 firearm attack. On this thing that's base firearm attack is only 14,000. So we're doing crazy firearm attack buffs just Simple as that, guys. So that is how this works, and how this works is you will buff your gun, then you will shoot it out, right? You'll shoot it out and shoot it out and shoot it out. You don't need to, unless you've got a different setup to what I'm running and you're focused on weak points. Once your ability comes ready, you reload your gun, and then when it's at that point, activate your ability and fire again. We're now firing full on buffed again, and that's how you're going to run this. So as soon as your ability comes ready, reload your gun, wait for it to put the clip in, activate your ability, and you're back full on power out. Now this is for this reason, this is why you don't need to worry about extended mags in your gun and stuff like that, because if you activate your ability and carry on, you can keep doing that. Now what the good thing I want to note on this is, if you're somebody that's running something like mental focus will not stop the count when you use your ability. So you can use this with mental focus. So if I put mental focus into here, well, I can if you can actually change your stuff during a boss fight, but the devs are idiots. So, but what I was saying is that what you can do is when you've got mental focus, you can be firing and you'll get the stacks of mental focus, and then you can activate your ability and continue firing, and you will not lose your mental focus stacks, okay, by activating your ability. So it works well with all of that. So you'll be able to get the 78% firearm attack from this and your ability, plus 150 attack buff from the mental focus. You're getting up into like the 220% firearm attack buff, and that's just from those. That's not even getting into all these other ones that are also increasing it. So you've got 32% plus a 62% and all those other ones. So it's getting quite crazy at that point, guys. So with that said, guys, I think that completes today's video. That you guys now have the complete build that I am running for my Lepic. Everything all round, and it's just an awesome all round perfect build in my opinion. You can even have all your immunities in there when you need those and everything. And again, the only thing I would change is I would add a catalyst to this, just so I can get one more slot, because that's what I have free and I'm using that slot on all of them. So with that said, thank you guys for watching my videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. Be man.